Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Crime Stories. Today's story is about a boy who was just 19 years old, but due to committing a serious crime, he was sent to a prison in California, where every prisoner was either a murderer or had committed a very serious crime. He spent a long time in this prison very comfortably, but after 4 years, something happened in this prison which made him the most dreaded and dangerous prisoner of the jail. At the last moment, some such revelations were made in front of the government lawyer fighting the case of this boy, which changed the course of this entire case, and the American government had to pay $5.2 million to this boy as compensation. So who was this prisoner who had to go to jail at the age of just 19, and how did he become a ruthless and dangerous prisoner, after which the revelations that were made surprised everyone? The boy about whom this story is, his name is Reggie Cole, whose parents had shifted to Los Angeles with their family in the year 1985. The area where his family had shifted was a dangerous area where there were many small criminal gangs, due to which some crime or the other was often taking place there. There were a total of 4 siblings, including Reggie, out of which Reggie was the youngest, and at that time he was only 10 years old. But his elder brother, who was 15 years old, joined a criminal gang there due to bad company. Now he often joined these gangs and started stealing, looting, and fighting with other gangs, and he had to pay a very big price for it. It happened that one day people of another gang suddenly attacked Reggie's brother's gang, in which they started firing at them, and in this, the bullet hit Kenny, that is Reggie's brother, directly in the head, and he died on the spot. After the death of his brother, Reggie was completely shattered, but he started trying to focus his full attention towards his studies so that he could forget his brother's death, and his family members were also helping him completely in this matter. But they all were not aware of this. They were unaware that from here, Reggie's life is going to take a new turn because Reggie was very close to his brother Kenny, so he knew very well the members of the criminal gang with whom Kenny lived, and gradually he also started hanging out with the members of these criminal gangs, due to which he lost interest in studies, and finally Reggie decides that he will also choose the world of crime like his brother. There were many reasons behind this decision of Reggie, the first reason of which was his parents' divorce, and the second reason was that both of his sisters got married, after which both of them started living in different cities, and due to this Reggie was left completely alone. Although Reggie was living with his mother, but after his brother left, he became very lonely, and to overcome this emptiness, he joins a criminal gang. After joining this gang, he started supplying drugs and marijuana, due to which he got into trouble for the first time at the age of 16. He had to go to the juvenile detention center, and just a few weeks after being released from here, the police arrested him again for possessing weapons. After being released from jail, Reggie again started walking on the path of crime and started supplying drugs and marijuana again. But by 1994, he committed a crime after which his life changed forever. By this time, Reggie was 19 years old, and this time he was arrested for murdering a man outside a brothel. Although Reggie kept saying repeatedly that he had not committed this murder, but despite this, the police arrested him and registered a murder case against him. This is the same case which changed Reggie's life, and finally when the truth of this case came out, the ground slipped under the feet of the court. After the trial started in the court, all the evidence came out against Reggie, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment, after which he was sent to Caput State Prison of California. This prison is considered one of the most dangerous prisons of America. It is considered one of the most dangerous jails in the country because America's most dangerous criminals were kept here. Anyway, Reggie leaves for the jail along with the rest of the prisoners in a bus, and all the way, Reggie sees that the road leading to the jail is completely deserted, and after a while, he sees the Kalipatia jail, which was built in a completely deserted place. Reggie sees that the prisoners of this jail were standing with guns pointed. As the jail was coming closer, Reggie's heartbeat was increasing, and as soon as the bus enters the jail, a very strong smell enters Reggie's nose, to avoid which he lowers his mouth. Meanwhile, Reggie sees that this jail is covered with iron nets from all sides, and these were not ordinary nets because there was current running in these nets, and anyone could die by touching them. Every prisoner in the jail knew this very well, and that is why till date no one has even tried to escape from the jail. One reason for making current run in these nets was that the guards had made their focus your attention on the prisoners inside the jail instead of outside the jail, because there were very few guards in this jail as compared to the prisoners, and one guard had to take care of every 50 prisoners. 3 months before Reggie came to this jail, a very famous incident happened in this jail, and that was that 5 prisoners of this jail had a fight with the jail's guard in which these prisoners stabbed 8 guards, and this incident became so famous that its news spread all over California. Anyway, this bus carrying Reggie and the rest of the prisoners reaches the main building of the jail, where the old prisoners of the jail start looking at all the prisoners very carefully. As soon as the bus stops, a guard comes out of the bus and starts calling out all those prisoners one by one whose names were present in the list kept with him. After getting down from the bus, all the prisoners are taken to the inspection room where they are checked after removing all their clothes so that it can be known whether they have hidden anything in their body or not, and then all these prisoners are made to wear their uniforms and taken to their cells. All the cells of this jail are no less than a cell. There were no windows because there was no window or air in any cell, and all the doors were made of iron, from which there was only a small gap to look outside. Inside this cell, there were 2 beds on the top and bottom, a bed and a toilet. As soon as Reggie enters his cell, he sees that a prisoner is sleeping on the bed below, and this was the first prisoner due to whom Reggie's journey of becoming a happy prisoner began. Anyway, this prisoner's eyes fall on Reggie, but Reggie turns his face to the other side because he did not want to make any eye contact with him. Reggie did this because he believed that if he has to spend his time properly in this jail, then he should not come in the eyes of any prisoner, and that is why he had decided that neither he will talk to any prisoner nor will he make friends with anyone, and for this reason he goes straight to his bed and lies down. It had been only 2 weeks since Reggie came to the jail, when one day a group of prisoners enters his cell, after which Reggie's fellow prisoners started behaving very well with those prisoners so that they do not do anything wrong to them, but this group of prisoners suddenly attacked him and raped him. Reggie was listening to all this lying on his bed, but he was so scared and nervous that he started pretending to be asleep so that those people do not harm him. Since Reggie's fellow prisoners neither fought nor shouted at those prisoners, this now became a routine for those prisoners, and they often entered his cell and raped him. Reggie now started understanding that he will have to fight to survive in this jail, because due to fear, the prisoners were either raped or were badly injured. During this time, Reggie's attention goes to one thing, and that was that many prisoners in this jail had knives which they made with the help of the things available with them. Those prisoners would sharpen the pieces of wood or iron with them, and make it like a knife, and use it when the time came. And seeing this, Reggie also decides that he will make a knife for himself, so that when the time comes, he can protect himself. Now the biggest question in front of Reggie was how he will make this knife, and then he takes out the toothbrush kept with him and starts sharpening it with a stone, and he keeps rubbing the toothbrush with the stone until it turns into a pointed and sharp weapon, and after some time he has made that knife with his toothbrush with which he can kill anyone. Since all these prisoners were given free time in the jail for some time in which they could study, play games, and talk to each other, and during this time Reggie sees that most of the prisoners in the jail are part of some gang, and they play and sit with their own group. Seeing this, Reggie starts thinking that to stay safe in the jail, he will also have to join a gang which can support him and protect him, but the biggest problem was that these prisoners did not include anyone in their gang just like that, and for this, any prisoner had to do some courageous work. Now Reggie, sitting far away, was very suspicious of all these gangs. He started keeping a close watch so that he could understand how to join these gangs, and then one day something happened which made him a famous name in this jail, and every gang started wanting him to join their gang. One morning, Reggie was walking alone in the jail grounds when suddenly a group of prisoners surrounded him. There was a prisoner in this group who was very tall and was also the leader of this group, and this leader catches Reggie's neck and pushes him into the net made near the ground and presses him. Reggie sees that other prisoners standing nearby are also watching this scene, and everyone's eyes are on him, and during this time he starts remembering the torture and rape of his fellow prisoner. Reggie starts feeling that if he does not fight here to save himself, then he will also have to face this torture every day. Like his fellow prisoner, and other prisoners of the jail will also start considering him weak and an easy target. This thought will keep coming to his mind. He takes out the toothbrush from his pocket, which he had made like a knife, and starts stabbing. In a flash, he stabs the group leader in the waist. However, this attack was not done with the intention of killing him, because if he had done so, he could have been sentenced to death. But he did this only so that the other prisoners in the jail could get the message that he is not an easy target, and messing with him can prove to be costly for them. Due to the sudden attack, the group of prisoners runs away from there, and the group leader also leaves Reggie to avoid another attack. After this incident, all the prisoners in the jail started seeing Reggie as a tough prisoner, due to which his respect increased a lot in the jail. And during this time, a group in the jail proposes to include Reggie in their gang. Reggie, who was spending time alone in this jail for a long time and who wanted to join a gang, immediately agrees to this proposal and joins this gang because by staying with this gang, he could stay safe and spend his time in jail easily. Although Reggie had joined a gang, but he was not happy with this. He was completely unaware that there is a prisoner in this entire jail whose rule runs in the entire jail, and he is also called the king of this jail, and one day he is going to face this prisoner. This prisoner was the most dangerous and dreaded prisoner of this jail, whose name was Eddie Clark, and he was also known as El Diablo in the jail, which means Satan. Jail was like a home for El Diablo, from where he used to run his drug operation, in which other prisoners and jail guards also used to support him. How dangerous El Diablo was can be guessed from the fact that from the rest of the prisoners to the guards, everyone was afraid of him, and he was taken special care of only so that peace and harmony is maintained in the jail. You must be thinking that when so much was happening in the jail, how can there be peace and harmony? But believe me, the situation could have been even more terrible, because most of the prisoners of this jail were either murderers or had come inside the jail due to some serious crime, and a big fight could make the jail a hell. And to prevent this, the guards were handling El Diablo by giving him special treatment. Taking advantage of the fear, El Diablo now did whatever he wanted in the jail and lived the way he wanted because there was neither any prisoner nor any guard to stop him. On the other hand, Reggie also got very close to his new gang, and he often played basketball with them and spent his time with them. After joining this gang, he started feeling very safe, and at the same time he started being very happy, but he was unaware of the fact that after some time, his life was going to change, and he was going to become the most dangerous prisoner of this jail. Reggie knew very well that he had to do everything in this jail, but neither he had to draw the attention of El Diablo towards himself, nor he had to come in his sight, because by doing this, he could get into big trouble. The most shocking thing was that El Diablo had become such a dangerous prisoner at the age of just 34 because he had killed a boy at the age of just 14, after which he was sent to the juvenile detention center. After spending 4 years in the juvenile center, when he came out, he was 18 years old. He had turned 18 years old, and as soon as he came out, he joined a criminal gang, and within a few days he was arrested again, because this time in the house where he had entered to steal, he first injured an old woman and then killed her son. After this murder, he was sentenced to life imprisonment, and since then, he is imprisoned in this jail. The biggest problem with El Diablo was that he was very moody, and sometimes he would suddenly attack the people of his group, and this was the reason that no one living with him was safe. On the other hand, Reggie was spending his time in jail without fighting with anyone, and in this way 4 years passed. In these 4 years, Reggie focused his entire attention on improving himself, and this was the reason that he had built a good body. And now he was also 23 years old, and this body and strength was going to be very useful for him in the future. On the other hand, El Diablo was getting addicted to alcohol day by day, and the intoxication of alcohol and his anger together created a ruckus in the entire jail. In 1910, he wreaked havoc which scared everyone. The limit was crossed when he would either stab or rape those who just stared at him. The terror of El Diablo was increasing day by day in the jail, and on the other hand, Reggie was spending his time peacefully in the jail by not coming in the eyes of El Diablo. But something happened in the morning of October 2000 which changed everything. On this day, all the prisoners were playing and talking in their free time in the outer yard of the jail, when one prisoner picked up a stone and hit a stone on the back of a guard. As soon as the stone hit, the guard told all the prisoners to lie down on the ground so that he could search them. During the search, a guard found a handmade knife which the prisoners kept with them. This knife was probably thrown on the ground by a prisoner before the search so that he would not be caught during the search. But the guards were unaware of the fact that this knife belonged to none other than one of El Diablo's associates. This knife belonged to El Diablo's closest, and he was his most trusted friend, for whose protection he could go to any extent. However, the guard picks up the knife in his hand and asks whose knife it is. But despite knowing whose knife it is, everyone remains silent because if they tell anyone, they could lose their lives. El Diablo was also among all the prisoners lying on the ground. He raised his head and started looking around at the other prisoners. The reason behind this was that he wanted to accuse any prisoner of owning the knife, and by chance, his eyes stopped on Reggie. Reggie realized that El Diablo's eyes were on him and that he was going to do something wrong. Then, El Diablo pointed towards Reggie with his hand and told the guard that the knife belonged to him. Reggie was not afraid that his sentence would be increased due to keeping the weapon because he was already serving a life sentence. He was only worried about the fact that if the false allegations made by El Diablo were proved true, then he would be punished. If his sentence was increased due to this, people would start considering him weak, and his reputation and image would be spoiled in the jail. He would again become an easy target for other prisoners because Reggie had already stabbed a prisoner to protect himself. So, this time, he decided that he would save himself. When the guard asked him about the knife, he said, "No, this knife is not mine." Although it was just a small answer, it was going to change Reggie's life forever. After this answer, Reggie had now become the enemy of El Diablo, and all the prisoners present there were surprised that Reggie went against El Diablo. Although after this day, Reggie did not face El Diablo, he knew very well that he had become the enemy of El Diablo and could be attacked any time. That is why he was alert all the time. Reggie had so much fear of El Diablo in his mind that he was not able to sleep properly at night. Even during the day, he kept a close watch on El Diablo and his companions in the yard so that they could not attack him. That is why he mostly stayed around the guards, so that they could save him in case of an attack. Just a month had passed when one morning in November 2000, Reggie was strolling in the outer yard of the prison, and then he saw El Diablo coming towards him. Seeing this, Reggie started trembling with fear and was not able to understand what to do. Then El Diablo came and stood in front of him. Before Reggie could understand anything, El Diablo caught his left shoulder, took out a knife from his pocket, and stabbed him in the waist. Reggie got very scared by this sudden attack. Then, El Diablo took out the knife from his waist, threw it on the ground, and walked away. Reggie pressed his wound with his hand to stop the blood flowing from his waist, but no prisoner standing nearby came to help him. All of them turned their eyes away as if they had not seen anything. After a few moments, the siren of the prison started ringing, which meant that the prisoners were on break. The time was over, and all the prisoners stood in a line before going to their cells so that the guards could search them. This was a routine search done every time before the prisoners went inside the cell to ascertain that they were not carrying any weapons or drugs with them. El Diablo was standing first in the line while Reggie was standing fourth. He was hiding his wound by putting his hand on it because he did not want the guards to know that he had a knife. He had dug a small pit in the outer yard of the jail and hidden it there so that he could use it if needed. This time, before standing in the line for the search, he took out the knife and secretly kept it with him because something very dangerous was going on in his mind. Anyway, because the guards were standing first in the line, El Diablo started searching the prisoners. After checking him from the front, they asked him to turn back so that they could search him. After this, he started looking at the other prisoners who were standing behind him. Then his eyes fell on Reggie, who was standing fourth in the line. On seeing Reggie, El Diablo started smiling lightly. The guard was still searching when suddenly Reggie came out of the line, reached near El Diablo, and put a knife to his throat. Seeing this, the ground slipped under the feet of all the people present there, and they were not able to believe what they had seen in front of their eyes. El Diablo fell on the ground, writhing in pain, and tried to stop the bleeding by removing the knife from his throat, but by then it was too late. In a short while, due to excessive bleeding, he was unable to breathe and died on the spot. Immediately after this, Reggie surrendered himself by lying on the ground and told the guard that he knew what he had done. He did not want the lives of other prisoners to be in danger, so he killed El Diablo. In this way, he became the most dangerous prisoner in the jail. The prisoner was killed in just one stroke. The guards arrested Reggie and put him in solitary confinement. The entire prison was put on high alert because the guards were afraid that after El Diablo's death, there would be a lot of terror in the prison. All the prisoners were locked in their cells and could not go out for any work. Now another murder charge was put on Reggie, which meant that if the trial took place in court, he could be sentenced to death. From the jail guard to every prisoner was a witness to this murder. There was only one way to escape the punishment for this murder, and that was for Reggie to say in court that he committed this murder in self-defense, to save himself. This was also true to a large extent, which the court accepted. Despite this, instead of sentencing Reggie to death, he was sentenced to 10 years of solitary confinement. According to the law, every criminal is given a government lawyer who can fight his case in court for free, and that is why Reggie was given a death sentence. Names of 3 or 4 lawyers were given to him, from whom he could choose anyone as his lawyer. Reggie had now given up hope of survival, so without paying much attention, he chose a lawyer whose name was Christopher Blood. This lawyer did something which Reggie had not even dreamt of. Within a few days of starting work on this case, Christopher started getting some details that changed the course of the whole case. Christopher started from the beginning and began working on the murder case which happened in 1994, due to which Reggie had to go to jail. The name of the person who was murdered in this case was Philip Gonzalez, and his age was 29 years. To investigate this case, 2 police officers reached the brothel where the murder happened. During this time, they got hold of the person who saw this murder happening. This person used to take care of the brothel, and his name was John Jonas. Because John was an eyewitness to the entire murder, both police officers took him for interrogation. He was brought to the police station, where he started telling the police every detail related to the murder. He told the police that on the night of the murder, he was standing on the 2nd floor of the brothel when he saw Philip Gonzalez stop his car outside the brothel and knock on the door. Philip said that he had to meet someone, but someone from inside told him that the person he wanted to meet was not there at the moment. On hearing this, Philip moved towards his car when 3 teenage boys with guns in their hands surrounded him and started asking for money. Because Philip was not American, he was unable to understand what the 3 boys were saying. Then suddenly, all 3 of them shot at him, killed him there, and ran away into the nearby bushes. During this time, John's attention was caught by one thing. While running away, one of the three boys was limping. John thought that maybe while firing, a bullet must have hit the boy's leg as well. One of the two police officers investigating the case was a female officer, and this was her first time. She wanted to close this case as soon as possible to make her record good. This officer started looking for every criminal who was arrested for committing any crime that night. One of these criminals was Reggie. Reggie was only 19 years old at that time, and as I have told you, he used to sell ganja with a gang. Due to this, he was shot in his leg once and also used to walk with a slight limp. The female officer started feeling that Reggie was probably involved in the murder of Philip Gonzalez because, according to the description given by John, the murderers were teenagers, and one of them was limping. This description exactly matched Reggie because he was also a teenager and walked with a limp. On this basis, the police arrested him and sent him to jail. Christopher, who was Reggie's lawyer, went deeper into the case and started getting evidence. There were two pieces of evidence to prove that Reggie was innocent and was serving a sentence for a crime he never committed. Anyway, it took Christopher 3 years to prove that Reggie was innocent. He proved it with solid evidence and scientific methods. The first argument that Christopher presented was that Philip Gonzalez was shot from a high place. The angle from which the bullet entered his body clearly showed that the person who shot him was sitting in the same brothel, and it was impossible that someone shot him from the front. Presenting his theory, Christopher said that it was possible that John, who used to look after the brothel, shot Philip and made up the story to mislead the police. The third piece of evidence that Christopher presented in court was that neither Reggie's fingerprints nor DNA were found at the crime scene. There was also no witness who could tell that Reggie was present there that night. Meanwhile, the police also found John and produced him in court. They brought him to the police so that he could tell the truth about what happened that night. The revelations made by John left everyone stunned. John told the court that he gave the same statement to the police as they had asked him to tell because he used to run a brothel. Due to this, the police often harassed him, and if he gave this statement, they would not harass him. The biggest proof among all these proofs that Christopher presented was the wound on Reggie's leg, caused by a bullet. This wound proved that Reggie was shot when he was 13 years old, which was 6 years before Philip's murder. The female officer who was investigating the case at that time also knew about this. But since this was her first case and she wanted to close it as soon as possible, she implicated Reggie in the case even though he was innocent. This was the reason that when Reggie was arrested, he was repeatedly shouting that he was innocent. But since the female officer had known about his crime from her very first time, she had no idea about his crime. She wanted to succeed in the case, so she made Reggie her victim. Christopher worked on this case for 3 years continuously. During this time, Reggie was serving his sentence in solitary confinement for the crime of killing El Diablo. Finally, Christopher again reached the court with this case. The court gave the verdict on the basis of evidence that Reggie had no hand in the first murder and was innocent. On hearing this, Reggie started crying bitterly. But since he had murdered El Diablo, he had to serve his 10 years of solitary confinement sentence. Reggie had already served 8 years in jail for a crime he had never committed. That is why these 8 years were reduced from the 10 years of solitary confinement sentence, which meant that now he would have to spend only 2 more years in jail. After completing his sentence, he came out in the year 2009. After that, he filed a case against the police department for making a false case, and finally, in the year 2017, he won the case. Later, the Los Angeles Police Department gave $5.2 million to Reggie as compensation. Although this money cannot bring back his lost time, it can surely make his future life easier, and he was going to live a good life. This was the story of a 19-year-old boy whose life changed after his brother's death. After going to jail, he had to endure everything that he had never imagined. He also murdered the most dangerous prisoner in that jail. But he never gave up, and finally, he came out of this false case. The only regret is that a mere police officer implicated an innocent man to close the case quickly and achieve success, due to which a major part of his life was wasted in jail. How did you like this story? Do tell us by writing in the comment section. Like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.